All right, we are live, hopefully on multiple platforms. I'm not going to check, but someone can. I'm here talking about something that is sort of near and dear to my heart. These are community building on social media, something that I have done in the past many times, not as much recently, just because I have some competing interests. But really, it was something that I had some successes with. I had some not so successful efforts. But at the time, I thought, wow, I should really write some of these things down. I should take some notes. I should make an ebook or something, just something for posterity, not even sell it or make money because I'm not that level of an expert.
Mhm.
I thought, I've learned a lot of things and I've spent a lot of time on this, and maybe I should record some of this. Well, life happened and other things took precedence. So I never got around to doing that. And then a few days ago, Miss Hannah here asked me some questions about community building and boosting up a veteran page, which I'll let her talk about. And I thought, well, this would be kind of a cool opportunity to just put some content together. We only had 2 days really to put it together. It's usually the best way
Mhm.
to do it. Otherwise, life gets in the way and it all falls by the wayside again. So here we are, kind of recording something for posterity, really, and it's just an opportunity to record some of these lessons learned and sort of get them out to the masses in some way, hopefully be a little
Mhm.
funny and interesting along the way, but we'll let the viewers decide whether that we're successful there. But Hannah, if you'd love to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell the people who you are.
Sure. Yep. So, my name is Hannah. I am currently working on my master's in analytics at Georgia Tech. Um, Also, a military spouse, trying to find work. I found Hiring Our Heroes, so I'm doing their military spouse fellowship program. That's been really nice. Made a lot of good connections. Through them, I found Vets to Industry as well. Sorry, my phone is not on silent. Um, but anyway, so yeah, I volunteer with Vets to Industry as a business development and marketing manager. Um, we have a really good follower base, but trying to boost engagement to our posts and reach more people
Yeah,
is kind of where we're at. Hmm.
absolutely. In vets industry, a cause that's near and dear to my heart. I definitely use them. I retired out of the Marine Corps 2.5, 3-ish years ago. That was very helpful to me, not just in, I didn't get a job through a connection from vets to industry, but just in honing my game in networking and figuring
Hmm.
out my personal brand, figuring out how to deliver an elevator pitch, all of these things that are required at a virtual networking event really helped me out a lot. So love vets to industry. I did it, Hiring Our Heroes, Skillbridge as well. That was tremendously helpful to me. So cannot advocate, and any veterans out there that happen to watch this now or in the future, cannot advocate for those two programs nearly enough. They are wonderful. They are quite free. You should really avail yourselves of them.
Can I add too, real quick to that? So
Absolutely.
Saturday we actually have an event. It's our 49th virtual event. It's sponsored by Signal Health Group, so they'll be there with
Awesome.
some cool veteran opportunities as well. And that'll be from, I believe, 2 to 7 Eastern time. So please
Okay.
join us for sure.
And nobody should be, I think Brian Arrington generally gives this disclaimer. He's not here, so I'll represent him. Nobody should be intimidated by the timeline. Yes, the entire show is five
Right.
hours. You do not have to stay for all 5 hours.
No.
If you do, you get some sort of badge of honor. I think you get to wear a silly hat at the end and crack a beer and have a good time with
Yeah.
the hardcores. But definitely,
Mhm.
those events are great for 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours. I've done all of these things. So
Mhm.
I believe I'm going to be there. My wife is going to be there as well, military spouse that she is, on this Saturday. So should be a good time.
Cool.
Okay. Do you have something else?
No, no, no. That's
Okay,
perfect.
good. I'm as an online instructor myself, I am highly attuned to hear any kind of somebody clicking off mute and going, I immediately stop talking and say, what is your question? So moving on, I just wanted to talk about, see, I use the word just there, try not to self minimize. I wanted to speak about my history. most of the people tuning in here probably know a little bit of the things that I've done. The reason you asking me questions in the first place is on my resume and on my LinkedIn profile, it talks about taking an online community, and the feather in the cap was I 10x the following of that community within 100 days. Actually, within 6 months, so about double that time, I 20x'd it. I'm not sure if it says that on there, but we went from just under 350 followers to 7,000 in the span of under 6 months. So I'll talk about that. That one was tremendously successful as a community building. That's definitely the best one that I've ever done. I had a couple others that were less successful. I had a few that maybe I was along for the ride and I learned some lessons from those. You kind of just take lessons from all of these exercises, good, bad, ugly, and different, and roll them together into Mark One Human Brain and figure out what you can figure out. The so there's a couple of things that I've done. I really cut my teeth. Not a shill for Mike Quinn, although Mike Quinn is a friend. I don't know if you've ever been to any of Mike's USO LinkedIn webinars. Highly recommend those as well. They are also quite free. I started going out when going out. I started going to his webinars when I initially decided to retire before I was out of the Marine Corps. And something interesting happened there. It was awesome instruction. Mike's forgotten more about LinkedIn than most of us will ever learn, me included. I learned almost everything I knew from him in his webinars. But something happened that was interesting along with just the learning and the instruction that he did on LinkedIn. People started coming to webinars. Initially, he had a few different ones. So there was a series, but we started going to the initial webinar over and over. Well, why did that happen? People started chatting in the comments and we became friends. And when we saw each other over and over again at these events, we eventually developed kind of a kinship. We started knowing some of Mike's go-to lines before he would even say them. It almost became like a Rocky Horror Club, going to the same show over and over, and everybody's got their little jokes, their little cues. We actually gave ourselves a nickname, which is something that is great for community building when you get a sense of togetherness and a sense of kind of us and the other sort of thing. You give yourselves a nickname, or somebody gives you a nickname. And a lot of the lessons that I learned there on how to do that, at one point, Mike kind of tossed out a joke challenge. He just meant it as sort of an offhand thing, and a couple of us took it and ran with it. The challenge was to create something on LinkedIn every day for 30 days. I don't think he ever planned it strategically. There was a free t-shirt at the end of it. So, that's how I got into the merch game a little bit. But that got me thinking that, people love challenges. People love to kind of, have something that is difficult, that is sort of an uphill battle. People love to be challenged to do things that maybe they wouldn't otherwise be inclined to do. So all of these are things that I started implementing into my first community building challenge, was when I latched onto a podcast. And that was the 10x thing. So podcast / YouTube channel is called How to Get an Analytics Job. It was something that I started listening to because I was getting into data analytics initially. And eventually I became friends with the podcaster, actually right up the road from me in Greensboro, North Carolina. And he and I sort of started working together. He asked me, when he saw that I was doing well with my personal LinkedIn account, he asked me if I wanted to run the company LinkedIn page. That's the story of the, boosting up followers. And we can talk about that in a moment. But the first foray that we had, we tried to copy another data influencers challenge. And this other influencer was having kind of wild success with this data analytics challenge. We wanted something kind of like that. And so we tried to do something similar. Mixed results from that, but that actually kind of boosted my star and my influencer status, if you will, to the point where I could start using personal weight and my personal presence on LinkedIn to boost an organizational page. This is another good lesson that, about how people react to different accounts coming at them, whether or not they'll speak to a person, whether or not they'll speak to an org page. We definitely should talk more about that. Yeah.
Mhm.
But so that was a kind of a middling success. I took over the LinkedIn page. That was a significant success. From there, I got involved with a veteran LinkedIn page. Not such a success with that one, largely due to a lot of things that were out of my control. But that's where I started learning about, hey, branding matters. The logo matters.
Mhm.
The things that you're putting out there, the content that you're putting out matters. It's not just consistency and daily content and having stuff out there, but it matters how you're talking to people. And that was a kind of a dismal failure, at least for me. The site
Mhm.
has gone on to moderate success, but I had a lot of these sort of things where, what we were trying to do maybe had to pivot. What we were trying to do worked well. What we were trying to do failed miserably. But yeah, so I've got plenty of success under my belt. I've got plenty of failure under my belt. I learned
Mhm.
great lessons from both. Even in the success, there was definitely, a kind of a bumpy road up. Even though it was great in the end. But yeah, lots of things learned about there. So there's my bona fides over the course of the last 5 minutes of droning on.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had not thought about the people versus organization. Um, I should have thought about that. But yeah, when you're reaching
Yeah.
out through there.
Well,
Because
we
we were
can definitely
actually
talk
just,
about that when happy to bring up we'll talk about some of the content you've been putting out on the Vets to Industry page and some things that I think we can improve. And then I'll show you some of the things that worked for us on the podcast.
awesome.
So you want to do that now?
Oh, no, no, whenever you're ready.
Okay.
No, let's go through the
There
questions.
was a long pause there. I was just wondering. Okay.
I am
You're
taking it
driving.
in. Well, because I don't want to cut you off, so I'm just like
No
waiting.
worries.
But it's so
Okay.
funny. I just
I'll
bought
have to
this
back that
notebook
up.
like the other day, and I feel like I've already used at least a quarter of it. It's ridiculous. Let's see.
I was very impressed. You gave me handwritten notes in a spiral notebook. I said, okay, this is definitely a military spouse here.
Hey, I got
Yep.
it. Yeah. Let's see. So, yeah, we talked about that. Basically, we need more engagement. So it's kind of, what do we do now? Like some of the ideas that I was thinking, more posts, like a nice weekly post. I like the idea of welcoming our new members because, they might hear about us, but then not really know a lot about the mission. So it's just nice to just welcome them and make sure that they're happy as well. Tagging more organizations, hashtags, and then, of course, doing our best at, I guess not doing our best, but just doing it, making sure that
Yeah.
we're liking and commenting with every mention. Because I think part of it is we're all volunteer run right now. Brian actually was just able to come on full time, which is really exciting.
Yeah. Saw the
But
post.
up
That's
until,
great.
yeah, it was awesome. So now it's like the ball has been rolling, but I feel like now it's
Yeah.
just really like leaping, which is cool. But yeah, when you have like so many volunteers and a lot of them are also working full time,
Yep.
we just have to do a good job about making sure everybody knows like specifically what they're doing within each department and, communicating that really well. But yeah, so really just making sure we're doing those things. But I know we talked about it a little bit before, and maybe hashtags aren't as helpful as I was hoping that they would be. Yeah.
Hashtags for sure. At tags are also generally pretty unhelpful.
Okay.
Let's bring it up.
Yes, let's talk about it.
Okay. So just going through the post feed for Vets to Industry, and this is yeah, that's your pinned post there. Okay. So we got the Juneteenth post. Let's just break that down real quick.
Okay.
So the first thing I noticed, actually, this is probably not the greatest example because you don't have too many faux pas there. Okay, so a couple here.
Mhm. Okay.
Um, so first thing, at tags. At
Mhm.
tags can be an anchor on your post. So if you got a sailboat and you drop a 10,000-pound anchor, if you're close to a shelf, if it goes down and it hits dirt before the chain runs out, you're probably fine. It's just going to keep your boat from sailing away. If you drop that anchor over the Marianas Trench, it's going to
Yeah.
sink your boat.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing here generally with at tags. When you tag a person within the post,
Right.
the algorithm will measure, and it has all these things that will flag your content as spam. You will see posts where people will at tag 50 or 100 people. Maybe they know them, maybe they don't.
Right.
But when a significant percentage of the people that you at tag in your post don't respond, your post gets marked as spam and it gets taken basically out of circulation.
Okay.
What that means is if you at tag one person and they don't respond, which did this person respond? I didn't even check.
I think
Nope.
she did.
Um,
I know she at least liked or comment or
so a
engaged.
reaction is one thing, but
I think she
generally they need to respond
okay.
because
I
what
think
you're
she
doing with an ad,
reposted.
okay, maybe that helped. This one didn't do that badly. You got 15 reactions.
You're
But this is
right,
a
but it's
fairly
the point.
emotional post. It's got a kind of a good hook picture here, but too many hashtags sinks you.
Okay.
What happens with hashtags is same thing. Anytime you've got people out there following the hashtag army, right? You've got people out there, I don't know how many, but you've got people following hashtag flag day. Each of these hashtags, your post gets shown to a certain small percentage of the people that follow that hashtag. If they don't stop and open your post and read it, you get a demerit, basically.
Okay.
And so if a significant percentage of people that your post is shown to writ large don't open it and look at it, your post gets depressed distribution. So in other words, it just gets sunk. Nobody's going to see it. So the more hashtags you put on here, and the sweet spot of hashtags used to be somewhere between 5 and 8. Right now, I honestly wouldn't put a hashtag on my post. The only upside of a hashtag is if somebody is no kidding, like they're going and seeing what are all the posts under hashtag army and they see yours and they just happen to react to it, then you'll get a slight boost. But more often
Gotcha.
than not, any hashtags in your post are just going to immediately depress your numbers because generally that's getting thrown into the feed of people that aren't necessarily looking for that content. They just follow
Sorry.
this hashtag once upon a time.
My dog's having a nightmare. I'm so
No
sorry. On
worries.
it.
I've got a massive thunderstorm going on outside my window. So if I cut out suddenly, that's why.
Yeah. On it. Hey, wake up. So sorry. He's just gonna be like
All good.
flailing in the background.
This is the best part of live content.
I know. Okay,
But yeah,
sorry.
so
Continue.
hashtags, I would say just 0 is best. 1 or 2 is fine if they really identify. But things like hashtag flag, how many people out there are following that? And if any of them are following it and that this pops into their post, are they likely to open it? No, probably not.
Gotcha.
So this is almost guaranteeing you're getting depressed distribution.
Okay.
So all of those things, those are just kind of tricks of the trade. Those aren't even like, how do I get people to open my post? That's just kind of, and this one's fine here. This is all text. And
Okay.
you see you got pretty good distribution on that. Now, that's an event and people, vets to industry followers are kind of primed to look for events. So that's probably
Mm-hmm.
going to be kind of low hanging fruit.
Gotcha.
Sharing posts, it's great for the person who gets shared. It's terrible for the sharing account. You're
Okay.
not going to get anything. And you look at that, you got 6, I call them pity likes. So these are people that
Mhm.
are probably have notifications on for your page, and they're automatically, they see it in their feed, they're going to toss it a like, and they're going to keep scrolling. Now, probably, I doubt any of them actually read it because all the people that like this are probably already friends with Brian anyway. So they
Gotcha.
probably saw this post twice. So
Mhm.
now you can share a post like end of the day. If you're not putting out any other content that day, if you want to share a post just to help somebody out, like obviously you're gonna help out Brian, that's fine. But just know you're helping him or her, whoever you share, you're not helping yourself. You're not going to get any distribution off of that. So I wouldn't spend too much time and definitely don't add hashtags. And then here's kind of the death sentence. At tags are one thing for people that you know are active on LinkedIn because there's a solid chance they're going to respond. At tags for an organization, especially a company, no bueno. They're not going to answer. Most
Right.
companies don't have anybody sitting there manning the LinkedIn account ready to respond to your at tag on your post. So all you're doing is syncing your post by tagging Carnival Cruise Lines. Now again, if it's a kind of a head tap and you're doing it as a nod to them, that's fine. But the thing is, you're not doing them any favors either because nobody sees this post. And if they do,
Right.
they're probably not going to crack it open and read it. So they're never going to even going to see the at tag for that organization. Carnival Cruise Line is not going to get any extra business off of it. Why? Because the post sinks.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's really kind of a mixed bag.
Interesting.
The other thing that I would say with all of this content is you've got to start getting creative with what do people want? And
Right.
that's why I would suggest maybe doing a poll and just seeing what content would people like to see and then start experimenting with some different things. So all of the historical things, all of the nods to different days, Women's Veterans Day, even Memorial Day, Independence Day, all of these things that are sort of you would think are kind of easy money in appealing to a veteran audience, you've got to remember that they're getting bombarded with that content on that day. So every
Right.
veteran's out there posting about that thing on that day. They're all connected with all sorts of other veterans. So every veteran opens their LinkedIn on Veterans Day and they see nothing but Veterans Day posts.
Right.
Even the most patriotic of us are going to get tired of that eventually, and we're not going to sit there and scroll and
Mhm.
like and comment on everybody else's posts.
Right.
Um, so that's something to consider. The other thing is you've got a lot of posts here that clearly took quite a bit of work to write. This isn't one of the longer ones, but you definitely got some that are pretty extensive, like this one right here.
Mhm.
The longer the post is, the less likely it is that anyone's going to read it, especially read it all the way to the end.
Right.
And so then you've got stacks of at tags here. Now you did get some probably because the pictures outweighed it. Everybody knows who Travis Manion is, at least in
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
our audience.
Mhm.
So they're likely, you see big
Mhm.
Old Glory there. You see some veteran tombstones. People are going to open that and engage with it. But generally, these longer written posts, all right, that one did okay. These longer written posts are going to struggle.
Mhm. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So you've got to, it's a bit of a sales job.
Right.
So everybody says they don't want to do sales, but everybody's got to learn sales a little bit. Why? Because you've got to sell your content. You've got to get somebody interested in opening.
Okay.
But appealing to the algorithm is kind of the first thing. That's to get your stuff in front of enough eyeballs that you've got a good chance to succeed and a good chance to get somebody other than your hardcore audience, people that are already friends of V2I, working with V2I, sponsors, whatever. You've got to get interest from people and grow the brand a little bit.
Okay. It's good advice. I like the analogy of thinking of it like an anchor as well. I haven't heard that before.
Yeah. Thought
Yeah,
about
now
that
I'm
one this
seeing
morning.
it. You were?
Thought about that one this morning. I just
Yeah.
pulled it out of thin air. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Okay. So we will work on that.
Yeah.
What else did I put here? Um, okay. So I wonder if it's somewhat similar. How to successfully build community engagement on Facebook. Because that's something with Best Industry, but also, and I didn't mention this before, but I'm volunteering with Hiring Our Heroes as their
Mm-hmm.
MSPN Military Spouse Professional Network lead at Barksdale. And the person who was doing this left about a year ago. And so the entire network died.
Neat.
So I don't think there was
Doesn't take
any
long.
handoff. Yeah, I don't think they handed it off. So really it's when it took me forever to even get admission into the page, and then I got there and there's just nothing happening. So it's kind of raising community awareness of, hey, Hiring Our Heroes is around, this is what we do. But really for both Best Industry and Hiring Our Heroes, it needs some help. Yeah.
Yeah. Different platforms present different challenges.
Mhm.
In the way I see it, there's two things that you really have to master. If you're good at one platform and then you go to another and you find nothing but failure.
Mhm.
Not that you found nothing but failure, just saying. A little creative hyperbole. What you
Yeah.
have to understand is how that social media platform works, because they all work differently.
Mhm.
And B, how they make money. When you
Right.
understand how they make money, you're going to understand what content they promote and reinforce. When you understand how they work, you understand their algorithm and you understand how content is presented to the viewers and who sees it.
Mhm.
Now, LinkedIn, which is the one I know the best, that is what we call found content, or some people call it stumble upon content. If you and I are connected and I make a post, there's about a 10 to 20% chance that you're even going to see that post. Why?
Mm.
Because when I post something, LinkedIn sends that out into the feeds of about 10% of my connections, probably about 3 to 5% maybe of my followers. Now, all of
Oh.
that is dependent on how much engagement we've had in the past. If we tend to react and comment on each other's posts, we'll start seeing it. There are a lot of data influencers that I may not even have notifications on for them, but I see every one of their posts. Why? Because I react to every one of their posts.
Right.
And that's why Vets Industry has 105,000 followers, but you struggle sometimes to get 10 or 15 people to react to a post. When
Mhm.
I was at Analytics Job, I had 7 to 10,000 followers, but at times I would get 100 or more people reacting to a post because
Right.
those people were primed to see the content that I was putting out and they responded to it actively. I engaged with the people who were active users and active engagers with our posts, and so it
Mhm.
became kind of a symbiotic relationship. So I knew every time I fired a post from that account, people were going to see it. Every
Mhm.
time you fire a post from Vets to Industry, probably a very small percentage of those 105,000 followers actually sees it. Number one, because organizational pages just don't get the same distribution as personal pages. And number two, because you don't have a history with most of those people that they engage with your content. Therefore, it's sort of a self reinforcing uh, cycle that the less engagement you get, the less engagement you're going to get in the future. And the fewer and
Right.
fewer people actually see your content in order to
Mhm.
get engagement at all. So, some tricks you can use there, not again, don't at tag people in the post to get engagement. That's, kind of a, that's like firing up Nas in your car. It's just, it
Mhm.
works for a second, but it's going to bite you in the long run.
Gotcha.
Don't pile on the hashtags. Those are all just kind of, quick fix tricks. You don't want to do any of that. But there are things you can do
Mhm.
in the comments that we can talk about a little bit more to kind of drive engagement, to kind of get the word out there that to people that your content is out. So that's how
Mhm.
LinkedIn works. I won't delve too deep into how the money works or the advertising, but advertisements pop up in your feed. Everybody's kind of complaining about it. Seems like there's more than there was before. There definitely is.
Yeah.
But that's how the money works. And then if you when you understand how they make money off of personal and organizational pages, as far as content premium accounts and things like that, you can understand why certain people get promoted, certain organizations get promoted over others. When you go into
Mhm.
something like Facebook, Facebook is not stumble upon content. When you post something in Facebook, that is going to go into the feed of anybody that's following you, assuming they don't have you muted or any of the other kind of half measures to not unfollow you, but to kind of get your
Right.
content depressed a little bit. So that's why you
Mhm.
have you have a little over 2,000 followers on Facebook. Percentage wise, you probably doing a little bit better. So 2 out of 2,000 is better than 10 out of 105,000. I suppose that's about the same. But
Yeah.
anyway, um, but the thing is, you have to ask yourself: is your audience on Facebook? Are they
Yeah.
on Facebook to see this kind of content?
Right.
People are on LinkedIn generally to see professional content. There's always plenty of hue and cry about Facebook content on LinkedIn, but generally you go to LinkedIn,
Mhm.
you find professional content 90% of the time. When you go on Facebook, you're going to find personal content 90% of the time.
Mhm.
When you start posting about professional events, networking events, I don't know that you're going to get anybody to complain, hey, don't bring that LinkedIn stuff over onto our Facebook. But just remember, they're not in that state of mind when they're on Facebook. They
Right.
may be shopping for things personally, but they're generally not looking for networking events or things that are related to jobs.
Mhm.
So you gotta know where your target audience is. You got 105,000 on LinkedIn. Why? Because you're a professional networking, job getting organization. That's the platform for that kind of content. Doesn't mean you can't make an impact on Facebook, on X, on Instagram, all these other platforms where I assume you have accounts there as well.
Mhm.
It's just a totally different game. In
Gotcha.
the data industry, the data industry is a barren wasteland on Twitter, X, whatever. It's just
Yeah.
there's just not a lot of people there. You post data
Mhm.
content, it doesn't go far. It's a place for jokes and memes and people yelling at each other about politics and stuff like that. It's just professional kind of job content does not work well there in general, and especially in the data industry. There's really only a couple of people that are making any impact on Twitter, and most people don't even try it. I don't make much of an effort to have a presence there. It's just an uphill slog for that kind of content, and that's fine. There are plenty of
Mhm.
platforms where our kind of content can succeed. LinkedIn, I would say, is number one. YouTube, probably number two. That's why we're on both of those. Facebook,
Right.
probably a distant third.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I believe that there is a YouTube for Vets to Industry.
Mhm.
I've only been here
I've
a
seen a
few
couple videos.
months. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I'll look into that too with
sure.
our marketing. Write that down.
But again, look at what are people on YouTube for?
Right.
Other than people on there looking for Twitch streamers and silly garbage like that, your target audience is on YouTube to learn.
Right. Right.
And so
Mhm.
what kind of content do you put there? And what length of videos are people looking for? I will tell you that people are not looking for the length of videos on LinkedIn that they are on YouTube. You can post a
Right.
half hour, an hour video on YouTube, it's going to get some watches. If you post
Mhm.
a half hour, an hour video on LinkedIn, it's going to die 1,000 deaths very
Yeah.
quickly.
Mhm. Yes. That's true. Let's see.
What are we on now? Let's see, we did different platforms. Looking at
Yeah,
my topic
we
list here.
let's see if I can find where my notes went. My notes
I
within
want
my
to tell
notes.
the audience she has copious notes.
I
She sent
really
me
do.
pages. Yes,
I do. You know what? I need to get a little bit more organized because I've had so many meetings this week
I'm
and I
rocking
just
one
keep
page.
putting them. See, quite similar. It's just I need to put some tabs in here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Here we go. Okay, so I was going to talk about do you have any advice about boosting posts on Facebook or is it even worth it?
That you got to pay. Boosting a
Okay, you
post
pay for
is
that. Okay,
advertising, which I
gotcha.
only recently got into with my brand. In fact, I spent about $40
Mhm,
promoting a post where people can get on my email list.
mhm.
Mixed
That's smart.
results, lessons learned. I kind of tossed it out like a lark. We're like, okay, well, let's spend $20 boosting this post and $20 boosting this one.
Yeah.
I haven't made any money off of it yet. We'll start boosting some stuff for the actual revenue generating items here soon. But let me take
Okay.
this off until we're ready to talk about it again. We can just maximize ourselves.
Okay.
But yeah, boosting is you can spend increments of money. I think the minimum's like $7 or maybe it's $1 a day. And
Interesting.
they promise you a certain number of impressions. Well, again, you've got to
Mm,
understand how the platform works. What's an impression? That's your ad pops up in somebody's feed on Facebook.
right.
Now they promise you impressions. It's up to you to make the ad compelling enough that somebody actually clicks on your link to go to
Mhm,
whatever website you're sending them to. And then
mhm,
once that link is there, whatever funnel or whatever sales technique you have to get them to, I don't know, show up to a Vets to Industry event, actually fill out a registration form, and then it's up to, it's the data analytics process to say, hey, we spent X dollars to get this number of clicks. My campaigns worked
mhm.
out to, it was about 50 cents per click to get onto
Right.
my email. My email funnel was converting at about a 30% rate, which isn't great, but it's not terrible.
Mhm. Yeah.
So each of those 50 cents a click,
Mhm.
about a third of those converted to subscribing to my email list. So that's about $1.50 per subscription.
Yeah.
have to figure at that point if I can convert that same rate to a paid, or if if it drops down to maybe 10%. Now you're talking about a couple of bucks to get somebody
Mhm.
into a low end offer. So I'm in
Mhm.
the profit business, providing services for money. Y'all are
Right.
not. But yeah, you could definitely figure out your metrics. How much money did we spend to get people to register for a Vets to Industry event, and is that worth it?
Right.
But it's
Yeah.
cool because you can kind of experiment with a very small amount of money. Like I said,
Yeah.
put your max at $10 and say, what
Mhm.
can you do in a week with $10?
That's really interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. Write that down. Yeah, because at the end of the day, I mean, we want to get the word out for obvious reasons, the mission, um, wanting to sometimes it's hard for me to, like, talk about it because I'm not a veteran, so I don't feel, almost like it's within my rights to speak about it sometimes,
mm,
But really the mission is to try and reduce veteran suicide rates, joblessness, and
yeah,
homelessness, and that matters. And so that's why we want more people to hear about it too, because we want them to get to the events. We want more recruiters. We want more companies, and we want to make sure those companies are vetted. We have a department that does that,
yeah.
researching the companies to make sure that they are military friendly. Um, so you already touched on this. I was going to ask if we should create goal polls to encourage engagement. So we
Polls
talked
get
about
kind of a
that a
bad
little bit.
rap on LinkedIn, and there's really no reason for it. They tend
Hmm.
to be, they got a bad rap because people started beating them up and using them as sort of a cheap way to get eyes on their content.
Yeah.
Personally, I would say that is an end in and of itself. If you can get eyes on your content, you can get people clicking on a poll, engaging on a poll, they're going to see more of your content in the future. So maybe the poll itself is a little bit frivolous or funny, but
Right.
that also is a way to get people to engage with your stuff. And then when you hit them with something a little more serious the next day, they're more likely to see it. Maybe you get
Hmm.
your serious business related content in front of somebody that might not otherwise have seen it because yesterday they
Hmm.
engaged with your funny poll. Um,
Okay.
I will say that what I found with an organizational page is polls don't work nearly as well as they do for individual pages.
Hmm.
You might want to try some things with your page or Brian's page, putting out a poll, and then V2I picks it up and reposts it. Mixed
Okay.
results with that, but yeah, there's some tricks you can do. The other thing that I found was, and this goes back to that concept, people want to talk to
Hmm.
people. People
Yes.
don't want to talk to an organization. No matter how much they like that organization, people feel very strange having a conversation with the Vets to Industry page
Right.
or the How to Get an Analytics Job page. Well, why? They don't know who that is.
Yeah.
So they can't put a face with a name. They're talking to a logo. That feels super weird.
That's what
Now
I was
you
just
can kind of,
thinking.
yeah, well, you can kind of play up the weird. And I
Hmm.
did. I had the How to Get an Analytics Job page take on its sort of its own persona and start kind of messing with people. I
I like that.
created fake internet beefs between influencers. It was that was kind of fun. But the best thing to do, I found, is post something with the organizational page. You can at tag your own account. You immediately switch to your account, go and post a comment on the organizational page content, and then ask the followers some sort of question. Also, in comments, you get no penalty if Vets to Industry posts a post that is at tag free, hashtag free, so it's set up for success. And
Hmm.
then Hannah Carey, who just posted the post, but nobody needs to know that. Hannah Carey on her individual account gets on, responds to it, and then at tags Brian Arrington and Carnival Cruise Lines and whoever
I
else
see what
who may
you're
or may not
saying.
respond, but now you don't get a penalty for it. They're still going to see it that you
Uh-huh.
tag them in that comment. You can add hashtags if you like. It won't necessarily cause the post to come up in people's timelines, but if you want to be able to classify it that way. So all bets are off once you get into comments, even if you're the person that posted the content and you're just kind of
Hmm.
gaming the game
Yeah.
to do the things in comments that you can't do in the post.
Okay. This is very good. Okay. Perfect. I like that.
But then you
Um,
engage the commenters, you try and you can't pin the first comment anymore, but there's a trick with that too. If you use
yeah,
the little red pin emoji and then you immediately react to your own comment, chances are that comment, as long as it's engaging and people actually want to talk to it, that
yeah,
comment will tend to stay at the top because it'll be the first one and the most engaged with.
gotcha.
So couple
Right.
just little tricks. They used to have a
Yeah,
feature where you could pin the top comment if you had written the
mhm,
post. You can't
yeah,
do that anymore. Why they did away with that, I don't know. It was a great feature.
yeah.
But you can kind of fake pin it,
Mhm.
and you can even do some sort of overt engagement like everybody like this comment to keep it at the top. I've seen that happen
Yeah.
too. That works fine. People are generally happy to help you out with that.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I must have come on after that. I hadn't heard about the pin. I
Nah, it
didn't know you
was
typed in it.
LinkedIn had lots of good things that they did away with, and my assumption is all of these things they figured out it wasn't making them money, so they trashed it.
Mhm. Yeah,
Generally
that
true.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so I was gonna say, uh, Traffic Secrets. You had mentioned that
Yes.
book. So what specific in there did you find the
Good
most
grief.
helpful and anything specific for us?
So it's I'm not a shill for Russell Brunson. Russell doesn't know me. I don't make him any money. I don't get
Wow.
a commission for sales of these books. He gives them away anyway. He sends them out for he'll charge you shipping and handling, but the book is free.
Right.
Um, but they're fantastic. He has three. I've read all three, and I have tabs everywhere because they're just that impactful. The funny thing
Wow.
that I found when reading these books was they reinforced a lot of the lessons that I stumbled upon just in the course of working with analytics job. So there were things I realized like nickname your followers, give them a sense
Mhm.
of togetherness that they're somehow different and special because they follow you or they follow your campaign. We kind of figured that out with Mike Quinn's acolytes. We called ourselves the USOUL suspects because we would go to all of his events. So if anybody sees us out there from the USOUL suspects, what's up? Fist bump. But then I noticed that the same people were coming to analytics job events over and over again. I started calling them the super fans, and I started using the little like Superman, Superwoman emojis in
Mhm.
all of my posts where I would talk about them. I would engage with them. I would post about them. I would talk to them directly. Back when hashtags weren't a dirty word, I would use hashtag superfans, and it
Right.
was very effective. So community creation, what does Russell say
Mhm.
in here? Create a community, give them a nickname. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But in this book, I think this is the second of the three. So the first one is .com secrets. This is the
Okay.
second one. But right off the bat, in the first few chapters, I probably should have had this tabbed. So he starts talking about your dream customer. This is earth shattering. And a lot of the things were things that I kind of figured it out through trial and error,
Mhm.
essentially saying you've got to find, first of all, you've got to define who it is that you want to engage with. So who's your customer archetype? The,
Right.
the customer archetype for vets to industry is a male or female. You generally want to have one male, one
Mm.
female. You give them names to
Okay.
characterize them. So
Yeah.
maybe your female her name is Cynthia, and she is a veteran that got out of the armed forces. She is between the ages of 25 and 50. She has these interests. What platforms does she spend her time on?
Right.
And that's the other thing that I really wanted to hit on this, and that's most people misunderstand, and I misunderstood badly when I first started out, what the number one characteristic is of a person that you're looking for. What is the one thing that you need them to do or have or be
Mhm.
above all else? Got any guesses?
What you thought it should be or what it is?
Let's say you're trying to boost a LinkedIn page.
Right.
You're going out there looking for people. What is the number one thing you need them? What is the number one characteristic you need them to have to be
Well,
good followers of your LinkedIn page?
interest. I mean,
It's part
interest
of
in
it.
what we're doing, but
Sure. It's part of it. Not That's not it though.
okay. Let me get my brain working here. Like, cause I can think of what I would want for them. Like, I want you to
Mhm.
feel supported. I want to help you, but it's not about us. It's about them. So what they need. So I just did that digital marketing class. So I'm thinking a lot of it in relation to like getting their interest to get a product. But Geo says your brand. Is it your brand? Is
No.
she helping me?
Nope.
Okay.
When you're looking for people, what kind of people are you looking for? We'll jump on the Wayback Machine and tell you how I figured
Okay.
this out. When I started trying to get people to follow the How to Get an Analytics Job LinkedIn page, because that was my original mission, was just get more
Right.
followers for the LinkedIn page, put out content, do stuff. But generally, I had a blank check, but it was just like, hey, work on this for a month and see how many followers you can get. Cool, can do.
Right.
I started going out there and I said, okay, well, who wants to be a data analyst? Who
Mm-hmm.
are the people out there that are hurting for data analytics jobs? I mean, I started thinking, okay, people that just graduated college. So I started doing searches for people that had data in their header or title somewhere that were, college graduate age, 22, 23.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing creepy about a middle-aged man like sliding into the DMs of, college kids or anything. But so I probably had, I don't know, like randomly looking up people sometimes in the area, but of that age and of that demographic, probably about a 10% hit rate tops. And I was sending out personal connection requests with them and then
Yeah.
trying to tell them, hey, we've got a data analytics podcast that you might be interested in. It's all about getting a job. So about a
Mm-hmm.
10% hit rate. So I evolved from there. And this was over the course of days. I evolved from there and I said, okay, maybe college kids ain't it.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just be looking for people with data in their title that don't have a job. So I started looking for
Mm-hmm.
people that had the green banner up, open to
Right.
work. Little better with those. I probably did about 20% connecting with those, and I managed to convert quite a few of those to followers. But still, it was kind of, I'd send out 30 connection requests a day because at the time that was the most you could do without getting in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I might get 3 to 5 a day responses, or maybe a few more once I stopped looking at like the younger generation.
Yeah.
So I eventually came to the realization, and I started hacking other content creators' content. So I started going on data content creators like a guy named Ken G, a guy named Alex
Mm-hmm.
Freeberg, who every time they
Oh
post something on LinkedIn, yeah, Alex. Every
yeah.
time they post something on LinkedIn, they get 500, 100, 500,000 reactions,
Immediately.
people commenting.
Mm-hmm.
I started engaging and sending connection requests to the people that commented. Suddenly I was getting 50, 60, 70% take rate on my connection requests and
Right.
converting almost all of them to being followers of our page and many of them to being fans of the show.
Right.
That led me to the realization the number one characteristic of your target audience is that they're active on LinkedIn
Okay.
or whatever platform you're on. So if you're looking for Facebook followers, you want people that actually use Facebook all the time. If you're looking for
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn followers, you want people that use LinkedIn all the time. Vast majority of LinkedIn accounts are dormant. So
Oh.
cast those out of your mind. And then at the
Mm-hmm.
other end, they're the mega influencers that don't ever look for content. It's,
Mm-hmm.
I post it, you read it. So
Right. Right.
polar opposite ends of the spectrum. Mega influencers, don't worry about them. Dormant accounts, don't worry about them. The people that
Mm-hmm.
ever use their LinkedIn account, there's a huge percentage of them that either check it once a month. Those are almost useless to you. There's an
Uh-huh.
even huger percentage of them that when they check it, they don't participate. They lurk. That is
But
massive on LinkedIn. Most people do nothing. They don't react. They don't comment. They won't. They may come to an event. They're probably going to
mhm.
lurk there too.
That's such a funny way
Those
to put it.
people, yeah, but those people are going to be kind of your silent majority. Your
Mhm.
105,000 followers who never
Mhm.
engage with your stuff. Who
Right.
are the people that you really want? Who are the people that are going to take your content and make it
Mhm.
go ballistic, go viral, actually get shown to more people? The people that comment.
Right.
That's your target audience. The people that are
Mhm.
active and engaging on the platform that you're on.
Mhm.
Yeah, or you have an awesome brand that brings them there. I mean, V2I is an awesome brand. It's not
Yes,
not necessarily driving the engagement. So
but
it's
we'll get
not
there.
just brand. I know plenty of wonderful companies, wonderful brands that just stink at social media,
Yeah.
especially LinkedIn.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's tough. But yeah, like target the people that actually engage. And William, you're a lurker. Okay.
That's killing me, man.
This brings us
That's
full
funny.
circle. If I could
Yeah,
circle back to polls. Guess
yeah,
who engages with polls and nothing else? Lurkers. That's another check
mm,
mark for the goodness of polls. I have
right,
found that if you put out a funny or engaging or interesting poll that allows people to kind of talk about themselves in a very low stress,
right.
low effort way, you'll get the lurkers to contribute. They'll vote in
I
your
like
poll.
that. Oh, wow. So I'm sitting here wondering, like, where is the line? Well, like, how funny are we talking? Or, because I had made a note as well, which like for the polls, or other content that allows for humanity and vulnerability while still allowing them to maintain professionalism.
Yeah,
So,
it's it's tough. I mean, sometimes there are people out there, and Mike Quinn's one of them, and he would admit it. I've
yeah,
definitely crossed the line once or twice. You try to be edgy, you try to be funny, you try to be a little
mhm,
irreverent, and you start getting an avalanche of comments saying, "Hey, this is insulting," or "This is
right.
not, this ain't what right looks like."
Mhm,
And I've deleted posts before. Now
mhm,
I've had many more where I get 100 positive comments and 3 negative ones, and they say, "Oh, I'm hurt about this," or
right.
when the percentage is that heavy, if you're getting
Mhm,
ratioed, it's like, you might just be professionally sensitive.
right.
Sometimes you got to be able to just stick to your guns and say, nope, this is what I want to say, and I'm good with it.
Mhm. Yeah.
But there are definitely times where I've crossed the line. I've posted something, and sometimes 10 minutes later, I'll look at it and I'll be like, you know what, I was angry when I posted that, or that was a poke in the chest for somebody, and
Mhm,
I don't want to be that guy, and
right.
I'll delete it myself. I'll self edit. There have been times where people have called me out, and when I
Mhm,
kind of took a second or a third or a fourth look at it, I
yeah.
realized, yeah, I probably punted this one. This wasn't my
Mhm,
finest hour. So that does happen. As an organization, yeah, you probably need to
yeah.
err a little more on the side of less edginess. But what I will say is, I mean, the Texas A&M Barstool guy just got fired for some really egregious stuff. But
Really?
what I will say is that's also something where you can tread that line a little bit more as a person. You post something that's more professional as vets the industry. You go into the
Mhm,
comments and maybe you say something a little challenging. Maybe you
mhm,
and let me tell you, veterans need to be challenged, and we want to be
yeah.
challenged.
Mhm,
It's part of the life. We've lived a life of hardship and challenge for 4 years
mhm,
or 40.
yeah.
Some of it's all we know. I live my life by fitness challenges and me giving people LinkedIn posting challenges. That was another campaign I had that was great. LinkedIn hard mode. Ton of
Really?
people that did that. But we love a challenge. We love kind of being poked in the chest every once in a while and saying, "Hey, you might not be on the right road on this." You
Yeah.
will get some kind of hurt feelings once in a while,
Mhm,
but for the most part, veterans will respond well to that. If you challenge
mhm,
them, if you say, maybe check your expectations on this, or check your
mhm,
course of action, like you might need a correction here, especially when
yeah.
they're doing something on resumes, or they're doing something on their LinkedIn profile that's just not productive, and you say,
Mhm,
hey, you really need to get a second opinion on this and do some work on this.
yeah.
It's not just going to fix itself.
Right. Yeah, I do try if I'm connecting with people to respectfully, if I see something that, like, for example, I saw someone had put weather as in weather instead
Mhm.
of the word, and like I will try and just point out little things because I do that. I hate if I use the wrong there,
Yes.
especially if I'm trying. I sent a message to some people of my business development team the other day, and I was throwing shade a little bit, if you will, about someone else's grammar. And I was saying it so fast that I put the wrong there. And I went back to look at it and I was like,
Yes.
wow, not me spelling something wrong while being the
Awesome.
grammar
Your
police.
finest hour. Yeah, I can. My wife is laughing in the other room, so
Yeah.
I'm putting her on screen. There's my revenge. Um,
Hey.
so she's
Yeah.
laughing at me because I am notorious for correcting the grammar of her. My children, they're not children anymore; they're grown adults now. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a thing that runs in my family. It's a sickness. I have
Mhm.
learned to be a bit more diplomatic about it. It was definitely a kind of poke you in the chest thing in my younger days.
That's great.
Yeah, so I'd love to address the question here on what we were just talking about. Giovanna says, "Would you not want to leave the negative post to see if it stirs a debate?" You've
Hmm.
got to find your temperature there, Giovanna. It's yep, that's a question that everybody's got to answer for themselves. Sometimes you put a post out there that is deliberately challenging and deliberately a little edgy in order to get some stuff stirred up. We'll
Mhm.
keep it pithy here, but yeah, you got to decide, but you got to really decide if that's the person you want to be. Is that is that your brand? There are definitely people out there
Mhm.
for whom it is their brand. There are people in the veteran space. Mike Quinn is definitely, invoke his name for a third time. He's definitely very challenging. He definitely makes some people angry. I have
Right.
good friends that have blocked Mike Quinn and just detest
Mhm.
him largely because of his challenging content. I've learned to take it with a grain of salt. I'm friends with the
Right.
man, but I do understand sometimes he posts some things out there and I go, is people going to take that the wrong way? Which I think is generally his intent. He knows that veterans like to be challenged and he's taken that upon himself. That's his brand. He was a rough and tough sergeant major once upon a time, and he's a kind of poke you in the
Mhm.
chest kind of guy. So that's what he does. I have found that generally is not who I choose to be. It's not something that works for me. I don't feel like arguing with people on social media. I don't feel like swinging the block hammer like I'm
Mhm.
Robert Baratheon. It's just not my thing.
Mhm.
So, but it
Cool.
works for Mike.
Right. That's a good like organization versus personal page difference you're talking about.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. So we talked a little bit about attention span. So that was really the last couple things, the attention span of followers, getting increasingly smaller with all of the tech-driven
Hmm.
world that we're living in, and also just like the analytics of LinkedIn, and
Yeah.
in general, what can we be looking at? Because a lot of organizations know how to collect it, but not how to use it. So, what do you think about all of that?
Absolutely. It's so analytics on LinkedIn is it's a numbers game. And really it's funny that we're talking about it kind of a job getting organization
Right.
because it's a numbers game on LinkedIn as it is in getting a job. You don't submit one application to get one job. You submit 100
Mm,
applications to get one job. Or you submit
right.
100 applications to get 10 interviews to get one job.
Mhm.
So just like the metaphor I always love to use is there's a patch on my lawn where the grass has died. If I go out there and I realize I need to grow 100 blades of grass to cover that patch of lawn, I'm not going to drop 100 grass seeds. I'm going to drop 1,000 grass seeds and saturate the area. So it's a numbers game. You have 105,000 followers on this page. You are never going to get 105,000 of them to respond to a piece of content. It's just a pipe dream. You put out a piece of content there and a percentage of them will see it. With that percentage of them that see it, a certain percentage of them will actually respond to it. As an organizational page runner, you can see all of those things here. I'll give you a like on this last one. As an organizational page runner, you can see all of those things, how many impressions you got, how many views you got, how many people clicked it open, how many people clicked through if you have a link that they can go to, like the registration link for your networking events. And you can analyze all of those. A click through rate of, I used to get excited if my click through rate for our events on analytic jobs was over 5%. I I cleared 10% a couple of times and that made me ecstatic. Generally it was 4 to 5 for a decent piece of content. Now how do you get people to up that percentage? Can I get this to close up? I can. Um, when you see, let's see a piece of content that I haven't opened here.
Okay.
So you've got to focus on what we call the hook, which is what you see above the click. So the click is
Mhm.
the see more link. Well, I opened all of these. Okay, right here. Um, That's not zooming in. Oh, well. So here you got a piece of content. Event is going on right now. Not too late to register and come on in. That's what they see.
Right.
When you have a piece of attached media, or here you've shared your own post, which isn't the worst thing in the world, it can get you a little extra engagement, but you shared your own post, you've got an attached thing on this. It's not just a straight text post. If you have
Mm-hmm.
something on your post, which you generally should, you're going to get 3 lines. So count them out: one, two, three, but you don't get this full third line. You get about half of
Mm-hmm.
it, right? And then you've
Mm-hmm.
got more. Now, you didn't fill out the line. You probably would have got a little more on this. But if someone's viewing this on desktop, as I am, they generally get 3 lines and they'll get most of that third line, but maybe not all of it. If they're looking
Mm-hmm.
at it on mobile, if we could show this also on mobile, you would see you probably get a little bit less of that third line, or you might not get it at all because it's now optimized for mobile. So your hook, if you will, to get them to click more or see more is basically 2.5 lines with attached media. If it's text only, you get about 5, but you don't get that whole fifth line. And yes, the blanks count. So if you're doing that sort of LinkedIn typing where you skip every other line, a lot of people like to kind of poo-poo that. It works. It helps people
Mm-hmm.
read it more fluidly. It also appeals
Right.
to people with a shorter attention span.
Yes.
So there's another tool. But
Mm-hmm.
skipping every other line does help people kind of absorb it. But what that means is you've got one and maybe a half lines of text to get their interest to get them to open it.
Right.
And when they click that open, that's the special sauce. Now your post is getting something, a small boost. Now the boosts
Mm-hmm.
kind of go up. If they click it open and read it, that's a little bit of an attaboy for your post. If they
Okay.
come down here and they click like, or any other of these reactions, and
Mm-hmm.
there is a whole science behind which one of these is the best. Won't get into that.
Interesting.
But they click a reaction, that's a little bit more of an attaboy for your post. If they come in and
Mm-hmm.
comment, a little bit more of an attaboy for your post. If their comment is extensive, which is usually perceived to be like 8 words or more, a little bit more of an attaboy. If their comment spurs conversation, as Scott's did here,
Mm-hmm.
that's more and more juice for the post. And then kind of the nuclear weapon is if they repost it themselves, and if you start getting multiple reposts, that's
Mm-hmm.
where everything sort of feeds off of each other. So in the past, I've talked about it like rocket boosters. So space shuttle takes off, the one big engine is boosting it, and it gets kind of to a certain point. That big engine drops off, and then the next rocket booster hits, and it pushes it further, and the next one hits, and it pushes it further.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe space shuttle isn't a good example, but anyway,
No, no, it's good. Gio
yeah,
will like that because she's doing internships with NASA and
awesome,
aerospace.
neat. But yeah, that's the kind of the initial thing with your post is it gets shopped to a small amount of people. They have to click it open. Then it kind of gets shown to a few more people. Then people have to start reacting to it. Then they have to start commenting to it. So as the engagement gets more and more, that's what you need more of. So when you look at like a post that has gone just mega viral, I'm talking like thousands of reactions, hundreds of comments, dozens of reposts, you
Mm-hmm.
see that kind of ratio with it. And if it was yours, if you could see the views, you might see 100,000 views, 1,000 reactions, 100 comments, 25 reposts. One thing kind of feeds the next. So the goal is to get all of those things. So the hook makes them open the post. The reaction makes more people see the post. The kind of prompt at the end, usually you want to have a call to action. Do you have one here? Nope. Um, so at the end, you want to maybe ask them a question. Or if you do that first comment, you want to ask them kind of a probing question or something that they're inclined to answer. Polls are good for that. Sometimes people will want to comment if you put like a deliberately short number of options on there, then they say, hey, I want D and this is my option. So people will tend to comment on polls for that reason if you make it deliberately a little kind of unsatisfying, the options they have. But so give them a call to action, then they'll want to comment, they'll want to answer. People are inherently self centered. I used to say selfish, I don't say that anymore. People are
Mm-hmm.
inherently self centered. They care way more about themselves than they're ever going to care about anybody else. Always. Everybody's like that. So if you show that you're interested in people and you get them to talk about themselves, they're going to talk about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So you give them a call to action that says, hey, what do you think about blah, 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 blah,
Right.
whatever it is. Or, vote in my poll. That's, kind of essentially they're talking about themselves. Here's my opinion on the question you asked. Click. Super low
Mhm.
stress. They're not putting themselves out there. They're not risking looking stupid with a dumb comment or a there, or your
Mhm.
error.
Yeah.
They can't make a typo, but
Right, right.
give them kind of a low stress way to engage.
Yeah.
If you're giving something away, say, hey, post interested in the comments. Even that helps out.
Oh,
And that
right.
will boost your post. That's why people do that. Hey, give me a one word, if you really want to come on Saturday, post Saturday in the comments or whatever it is.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't
That's why
realize.
people do that. So the comments start driving more and more, and then the
Mhm.
reposts come when if you have something that is just groundbreaking, where you say one of these kind of sound clip type things, um, or if you have a handout or something where it's like, hey, I really want to take this and give it to somebody else, or I want to put my name on this and repost this.
Mhm.
Like I said, reposting helps the person that got reposted, not the person that reposts. But if you're getting people to repost that wouldn't otherwise post, well, you don't really care too much about whether they're getting engagement. You're getting engagement from them reposting it.
Right.
So really, it's kind of a game where you try to get one thing to lead to the other, and they're all sort
Mhm.
of self-reinforcing. As more people see your content, if it's good, more people will
Mhm.
do all of those things: read, react, comment, repost.
Okay. Cool. I'm gonna process that and think about it as I'm
Yeah,
making. I'm here with you. I'm filing it away. That's
yeah.
great.
Trust me, we've got, we're here for, well, we're a little over an hour now, but we're here for however much time.
Yeah.
I've had classes and courses that were hours long just on
Mhm.
LinkedIn. So there is more that
Yeah.
I've forgotten. There is more that I don't know.
Mhm.
The algorithm changes all the time. There are people that literally do nothing but sit there and study the LinkedIn algorithm, and people pay them for their insights. That's the thing.
Right.
I choose not
That's great.
to get that involved with it.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
people that make their living off of mastering LinkedIn and teaching it to other people.
Yep. Mhm. I've seen some people like that. That's
Yep.
cool. Um, yeah, I'm surprised you came up with that this morning, the anchor thing, because that just sounds like I figured you would have gotten it out of that guy's book, but that's cool
No,
to look at it that way.
no, I come up with plenty of silly metaphors myself.
That's
You can ask
awesome.
my students.
Yeah. What
Bust them
kind
out
of
at a moment's
classes
notice.
do you teach? Like, how often are you doing those? Like,
At my 9 to 5, I teach business intelligence software.
oh, okay. I didn't
Yeah.
know
So when
that.
I retired, I became a marketing analyst, and I used primarily this software. It's called Alteryx, and
Okay.
paying me to pimp their stuff. But I that was the primary software that I used. I did that for about a year and a half, and then eventually the software company hired me away to teach their stuff to their corporate clients.
Cool, cool. That's awesome. So I guess really the last thing I was going to bring up was any email marketing tips, but I feel like that goes back to the same thing we were talking about, like the hook and attention span
Sure.
more
Yeah, it's
so.
about it's about grabbing the attention in the time that somebody is willing to give you for free.
Yeah, right.
When they're scrolling their LinkedIn feed, what they'll give you for free is they'll look at that first 3 to 5 lines.
Yeah.
If they're in their email inbox, the time that they'll give you for free is to see the title that shows up. And if they're not interested in that title, if that thing doesn't grab them and pique their
Mhm.
interest, your email is getting deleted unread.
Right. Mhm.
Now, I know you asked about metrics and things like that. There's a whole bunch of there are plenty of email providers that will send out your stuff, that will do the analytics.
Yeah.
They cost money, but
Mhm.
plenty of Mailchimp is one that I use briefly. Hey, what's up, Patrick?
Mhm.
Um, Definitely used a few of those. I have a platform now that I use for my website that kind of does all that stuff for me. But yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. You've got to experiment. It's in data world, statistics world, we call it A/B experimentation.
Mhm. You're right.
You
Mhm.
send out one email to 100 people, and you send out
Mhm.
a different email to another 100 people. Each one has a
Mhm.
different hook, and you see which one gets a higher open rate,
Yeah, we
and
need to
then
do that.
learn lessons from that. I did that. I will say, you talk about weekly content. When I was doing here, I'll show you. When I was
Mhm.
working on how to get an analytics job, I was putting out daily content, and I did that for about 6 months.
Yeah.
And that was honestly, that and engaging personally with the people and highlighting the people. So here, Kelly Adams was one of our super fans. She was one of the people that watched the show.
Mhm.
And then we had her on to interview her. She built her own website, all sorts of stuff like that. And just posting about one of our fans,
Right. I
89
love that.
reactions, comments, reposts for an org page. That's insane, especially for
Mhm.
something that doesn't involve a free giveaway. Here's some of our later interviews when I was kind of on my way out and going to full-time employment.
Mhm.
Um, and there's me getting interviewed. So here's the hook. Huge thanks to everyone who attended today's live stream. We're drawing people in that we're already interested in. Super fans. Our guest this week is Ash. Um, then we, use a bunch of emojis. That's another cool one. So I used emojis to talk about, the super fans. And
Mhm.
let's see if I did it here. No, I didn't. But so we're just doing kind of funny things about who we're interviewing. Luke Bruce is he's a veteran himself. Was a former submarine officer.
Oh,
Now
cool.
huge on YouTube, huge in the data analytics game.
Awesome.
So this one is a song about data analytics. What's not funny about that?
That's great.
So yeah, so engaging with the people that engage with you.
Mhm.
There's our little Superman, Superwoman emojis.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, so couple of hashtags that were hot at the time. Google Data Analytics.
No,
I
yeah.
started trying to get this Google Data Thoughts going. Didn't really
Mhm.
work out, but
Mhm.
at the time, Google Data Analytics certificate was the new hotness, and we
Mhm.
were out there trying to get people interested in it.
Gotcha.
So
So do
yeah,
you recommend? Sorry, go ahead.
so just looking at the hooks, like who's ready for the Belarus ball of fire. Marina she's from Belarus.
Mhm.
So just putting kind of silly things out like that,
Mhm.
um, and kind of getting people interested in people. So kind of downplaying, and even the logo for the show, it's got
Mhm.
the podcaster John David, his face on there. So you got human faces on there. It's not just
Right.
some kind of corporate logo, something that looks kind of cooked up on Canva. You
Right.
you feel like you're talking to people with this kind of
Mhm.
content.
That's
So it's
smart.
all kind of highlighting people, either influencers or people that were
Mhm.
kind of our fans. Yeah, there's me again.
Yeah.
Um, so there's Alex
Oh,
Freeberg.
you
Before
were on with
when he had
Alex?
what's that?
You were on with Alex?
Yeah, we interviewed him. I was
That's
actually like half asleep on that one. I was totally exhausted. I was still in the Marines then. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, that was when Alex has 800,000 subscribers on YouTube now. I think he probably had
Mhm.
like 200,000 that day, but
Yeah.
got to
Wow.
start somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Do
So yeah,
you, so you like the use of emojis? You recommend that? Like that's
I do. Yeah,
okay.
again, it's like polls. It's like, how principled do you want to be? How
Yeah.
much do you want to stick to your no, we must be like all about serious business. No, make it fun. Make
Yeah.
somebody want to engage with your stuff. It's eye-catching. They call it a
Yeah.
scroll stopper. And even stuff like, having a lot of red and a lot of bright colors,
Mhm.
it's a scroll
Right.
stopper on your media. And that was the lesson I learned from helping that veterans page. Their
Mhm.
logo, their graphics, all of their media, it was like
Mhm.
olive drab on black.
Oh, yeah.
The content all failed. Why? Because it
Yeah.
looks like garbage. Nobody wants to
Right.
open that. Doesn't appeal to the eye.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah. So good lessons learned all over the place. But yeah, it's all about catching that kind of,
Mhm.
minute span of attention, maybe that fraction of a second that person's going to give
Mhm.
you when they see an email from Vets to Industry and it says free giveaway.
Mhm.
Then maybe they're going to open that. You
Right.
probably get a pretty good take rate on that. Or if you say you're networking wrong, so things that are sort of deliberately challenging or
Right.
that, fly in the face of their assumptions, your
Mhm.
resume is not helping you with an exclamation point, something like that.
Right.
It
Yeah.
feels kind of corny and a little cheap sometimes, but it's a sales job. You're catching a limited attention span and they go, "Oh,
Mhm.
my resume is not helping me? Well, maybe that's
Yeah.
why I can't find a job. Let me open this and find out what they're talking about."
For sure. Okay. I like that. I do see a lot of those floating around. And I like so much of this. I like so many of your ideas. I like also picking someone to highlight, I think is so nice because
Yeah.
that's part of, that's the whole point. We want people to find jobs. So being able to put them out there for everyone, our followers, and then they would, of course, want to share that as well.
Oh,
Help more people. I
if you
love
have
that.
people that have found a job that you can trace back to a V2I networking event,
Right.
I would make them a rock star if I was you.
Or,
Yeah, I'd have them on
okay.
all the time.
Okay.
And you should, if your metrics are good, if you can say, hey, 15% of the people that went to a Vets to Industry event found a job a month later, even if you can't necessarily
Mhm.
relate it to a connection they made at V2I. Like I said, I didn't get
Mhm.
jobs from people that I met to V2I. However, it honed
Mhm.
my networking game, and that was invaluable. So
Mhm.
I owe V2I a debt of gratitude just
Mhm.
because there were various different programs I went to, V2I, 4Block,
Mhm.
um, the ones that say American Corporate Partners.
Mhm.
All of these things made me a more savvy business person and a more able to sell myself.
Mhm.
They were all great.
I love that. It's kinda like, so honestly, like when we first connected, obviously I didn't know that you had a YouTube channel, but I went ahead and looked at some of the things, and I saw you did one about the being an introvert, and it's
Yeah.
something you want to work on. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's what's great about the events too. Is like if you are like that, it's okay to be uncomfortable. Like it's not necessarily comfortable for me to be live, but I know I'm getting a lot of good things, and this is going to be helpful for a lot of people too who are marketing. So just putting yourself out there and
Yeah.
that'll make
It's
you more
like
comfortable
speed
in
dating
doing
for veteran professionals,
yeah,
and
it
it's like, and if you say something stupid, it's fine. You're going to be out of that
is.
room in 10 minutes anyway. You might never see those people again. So you got
Right,
another
and then
chance in half an hour to do it again.
exactly, I was gonna say someone else will go into the same room and do the same thing. So,
Yep.
yeah, people will forget it. You might not, but they will. So,
Oh yeah, it
that's
sticks with
cool.
you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Like, I
No worries.
once again, I got so many notes. I got a lot to think about, but that's
Good.
awesome. I really, really appreciate your time in that.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. I hadn't really thought of kind of getting some of these thoughts out in this fashion. And as soon as you said, "Hey, let's jump on a call," like, let's make it content. And
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
the internet is forever and people can
Mhm,
watch it. It's always amazing when you make a YouTube video that has any kind of valuable content in it. It'll
mhm,
be a year later, you've totally forgotten about it. And somebody will just come up to
mhm.
you at a convention or jobs or somewhere and they'll be like, "Hey, I watched that YouTube video you did and it really helped me with blah 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 blah." And you're
Mhm.
like, "Man, I barely even remember making that, but that's great. I'm glad it helped you."
Right. That's awesome.
Yep.
Thank you.
Oh, Sue says, "Great job." Thank
Thanks,
you.
Sue. That's so cool.
She's right across the hall.
Aw, nice. Do you have, like, your separate offices or
We do. Yeah, hers was supposed to be the dining room, but we felt we didn't really need a dining room. We're dining tables in like a nook in the kitchen, so we're good.
oh, nice.
Yeah, we got the piano in there and everything for my son.
That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, so we got separate offices. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, cool.
All right, I think we're spent. We've definitely cashed our hour. So
Awesome.
yeah, absolute thanks for everybody that stopped by. Paula, as always, thank you. You're always value added, Paula. All of the good questions. And Giovanna, appreciate all of the engagement from you. Abe, Matt,
Mhm,
former super fans. Matt, I met as that was a
mhm,
guest on the podcast, so they're always coming. Oh yes, Adam Clements was here. He's a friend, personal friend. Camp Lejeune. We go to the same workout class in the mornings. He's transitioning out of the Marine
oh,
Corps. So yeah, a lot of good people here. Hey, the internet is forever. William, thank you, our resident lurker, representing the lurkers on LinkedIn.
yeah,
Yeah, they
that's
are
gonna
they are a clan. So
awesome. Well, maybe,
awesome.
if Adam's transitioning out, if he wants to come to our event on Saturday,
Yeah,
um, check out the Vest Industry page for
I
sure.
will see. Yep, he's also kind of starting to make a name for himself as a data professional on LinkedIn as a veteran. So yeah, trying to help him out as well. But yeah, V2I is a great event. Pitch for them Saturday, Vets to Industry event. You heard about it at the top of the show. We'll hit it again. I will post a link I will amend the show notes of the YouTube video, and I'll post a comment on the LinkedIn event. for a link to the Vets to Industry event on Saturday. So if you're transitioning out, that is invaluable. That is one of, and I can give you a list of a half dozen other organizations that I used as well. Yeah,
Mhm.
it is not a one-time thing. You need to go to multiple networking events. You need to be involved in
Mhm.
multiple organizations to enable a great transition. I certainly beat up everyone I could get my hands on, and it worked
Mhm.
wonders for me.
That's awesome. Yep. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks for the opportunity, Hannah. We'll see you again.
All right. Sounds good. Bye.